before we take the thing out of the hands of government.
Oops. Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live. Today is October 14, 2022. We are your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. We cover breaking news, culture, memetic warfare. We will show you that only Bitcoin can give you true financial sovereignty. And when we say that, we obviously mean freedom. Today, we're going to talk about a very hot topic, apparently. Maybe something that YouTube doesn't like very much. We're going to talk about Bitcoin is the money of enemies. And however way you feel about, these two individuals in the title, I think it's a really important discussion to have whether a group of people should have the ability to get to decide if another group of people are entitled to speech. And at the end of the day, money is one of the most important forms of speech. So I think it's a really important discussion to have, because if you look at how Bitcoin functions, you have to be okay with your worst enemy, even if you disagree with him. You have to be okay with the fact that he might use Bitcoin for himself, right? So I think it's a really important discussion to have. And I think as time progresses, more and more people are going to open their eyes to the fact that, hey, when we saw this with Russia, we saw this with Iran, right? Your enemies are going to use this technology for themselves. And are we going to live, and what is it going to be to live in that type of world versus the world that we have today, where a bureaucratic elite in Washington, D.C. are playing God, and they're getting to decide how or who is entitled to use money and who is not entitled to use money. And I think it's a really important discussion for all of us to have. Anyways, today we have a very special guest. He's a new member of Simply Bitcoin. Birds are not real, also known as Paul. How you doing, Paul?
Good, Nico, man. How are you doing?
Good, brother. Thanks for joining us today. And of course, my legendary co-host, always optimistic, Optimus Fields. How you doing, brother?
I am doing well. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Nico. I am excited for this show. I think this one's going to be a jam-packed signal show. And like you said, a very important conversation. Say what you will about these men and what's going on. But this is what Bitcoin is for. You know, you can't cancel Bitcoin. So
absolutely. So we're going to lay out the case for you guys. What do we have for in the culture, Opti?
Oh, yeah. On the culture, well, Forbes dropped an article, and it was full of really bad economics and bad takes on Bitcoin. And it's called, "Do We Need Bitcoin for What It's Become?" And so we're going to debunk it and counter it with our own signal from Nakamoto Institute, one of my favorite websites. So I'm going to do a short economic lessons on money. Hopefully I do it justice.
Opti's doing economic lessons. I'm really excited for that. And I think Rave Elevator just confirmed what we were fearing. Apparently they are shadow banning this hard, obviously, because the men in the title are definitely highly contentious. But I promise you this, guys, we're not going to approach it from the normal political angle. We're going to approach it from the angle of, very simple. Do you want to live in a world where an elite group of people get to decide who is entitled to use money or not? Or do you want to live in a world where it's an open monetary network? Even your worst enemy potentially could use it, right? And there's pros and cons to both systems. Anyways, let's get to the numbers, shall we? Let's do it. Number time. Brought to you by NODL. At this point, you should be running your own Bitcoin node. If you don't use your own Bitcoin node, you're trusting someone else's. Run your own version of Bitcoin Core, the Lightning Network, Whirlpool, and Dojo, all from the comfort of your own home. And if you're a digital nomad, you have absolutely no excuse, because now you can run a NODL through a virtual private server. Visit nodl.eu today. All right, guys, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 19,282 sats per dollar, also known as Moscow time, 5,186 block height, 758,656 reachable Bitcoin nodes, 14,692 Blocks of the halving, 81,344. Halving estimate April 20th, 2024. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,992. Capacity value, 96 million USD. Realized monetary inflation, 1.78%. Market capitalization, $369 billion. We're so early. We're so early. Anyways, so I ran into this video by Caitlin Long, and she said something really interesting. She said something that we've been on top and we've been covering this, right? And we've been making the case for you guys for a long time now that the SEC, the Federal Reserve, are being political in who they're approving and how they're allowing Bitcoin to integrate with the financial system. Because here's the reality. Bitcoin has better incentives, right? I didn't close the door completely. Give me 1 second, guys.
Nico's slipping on this Friday.
There we go. It's Friday, bro. I'm running on fumes. Anyways, Bitcoin has better incentives. So their only shot at stopping this thing is through coercion. And I think this video by Caitlin Long is really telling. Like, it really, I think, shows us what we had suspicions of. But like always, like the digital assets framework report that was released by the White House, I think this is finally another smoking gun. And clearly they're being malicious about it. And pay attention to who they approve as a bank that's entitled to use Bitcoin and who they didn't approve. And I'll make the case as why I believe that's the case. Anyways, let's check it out.
Gets to the question of whether crypto truly is risky within the traditional banking system and the connectivity, because there was a major announcement this morning, which is that Bank of New York Mellon, which is, I believe, the largest bank in the United States by assets, has officially now entered Bitcoin custody. And the interesting question that is raised by that is that they are a bank holding company that is regulated by supervised by the Federal Reserve. My company, as you know, has a lawsuit against the Federal Reserve, and I am about to make some news. You will see a filing from my company in that lawsuit pertaining to the announcement this morning, because the Federal Reserve filed filings last week talking about the risk to the financial system from crypto. And then today, a Federal Reserve supervised bank holding company enters crypto. We've been waiting for 2.5 years to do that. And look what the Fed actually said last week versus what it did today.
She mic dropped so hard that they all stayed silent, right? And again, it's like, don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do. Now, why did they approve BNY Mellon and not Caitlin Long's bank? Caitlin Long's bank, she opened a bank specifically, it was called Avanti, now it's called Custodia, specifically to integrate Bitcoin, make it easier for Bitcoin exchanges, et cetera, make it easy for institutions to custody Bitcoin with that bank. But the Federal Reserve was slow walking her to the point that Caitlin Long sued them. When she sued them, the Federal Reserve changed the rules right then and there and said, hey, it usually takes 12 weeks. Now there is no amount of time how long we could take. Now, and it goes back to something that we've been saying for a while. The people that are in charge of regulating Bitcoin or regulating the industry are also the people in charge, are also the people that have the most to lose if it succeeds. Talk about misaligned incentives. Now, why BNY Mellon and why not Custodia? Well, think about it. BNY Mellon, you could bet your bottom dollar that it's in bed with the government, making it a lot easier to control. Custodia is not the case. Custodia is a pure Bitcoin play. Her words, crypto, whatever, crypto play. Which do you think is more favorable? So again, it's like rules for thee, but not for me. We're going to pass rules as long as we're okay. And it highlights, dude, that fiat money, the whole system, is it really by the people for the people? Or like we've been making the case on this channel, it's by the government for the government. And it will always be that way as long as the state is in control of issuing the money and having a monopoly on that issuance of money. So if we don't separate money from state, how can we expect the state to play fair? It's just acting on its own incentives, right? Anyways, Paul, what are your thoughts on this? Glad we have a lawyer on the show. Fact check, Nico.
Yeah, I think the word that you mentioned that's most important here is control, because that's 100% what it's about. And they use the term risk. They mention risk a lot. Crypto spot traded ETF is too risky. This bank product is too risky. They use risk as a way to keep small investors and people who are outside of the mainstream financial system from participating. You can see this in the accredited investor scheme in the US. So in order to invest in certain products, you have to have a annual income that exceeds $200,000 or $300,000 if you're filing jointly. And you have to have that for 2 years in order to invest in some products. And the stated purpose behind that is they're too risky. Well, investing is risky. That's what investing is. It's a risk. But these structures, these schemas serve to keep normal people out of the high yielding products, out of the high yielding markets, and keep them into these, exchange traded ETFs that track the S&P 500, so that they are effectively excluded from the mainstream financial system. And why do they do that? Because when there's fewer people in the economic elite, they get a bigger piece of the pie. And they don't want to lose that control.
Yep. Dude, I think you hit the nail on the head. Opti, what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with Paul?
Yeah, well, I could never say it as good as Paul did. But first off, I just want to comment on the fact that you could have heard a pin drop after she did that mic drop, and furthermore, just like the strain in her voice, you can tell how pissed off she was, and that's just another. It's not my main point. I think the main point here is just like, this is just the Cantillon effect in real time. This just shows the corruption of politics and the financial world. And I'm not surprised. As Paul said, it's always been about control. And of course, they're not going to basically give up that control to a quote unquote Bitcoin bank. And furthermore, I think this just shows the futility of playing by traditional rules with Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin will ride around this, and this is a feature, not a bug. So as much as it's a valiant effort to try to play by the rules, and we're not saying to break the rules or anything, but break the laws, but I'm just saying, Bitcoin was meant to make this obsolete. Bitcoin was meant to make these banks obsolete, and we don't have to trust third parties and trusted counterparty risks that are banks. And so it's Bitcoin will route around this, and it just shows that Bitcoin incentives are too strong. So even when they tried to cast us out of the financial game, Bitcoin, the incentives of Bitcoin just stay winning. So bullish on Bitcoin, but of course, it just exposes the corruption in Washington and on Wall Street and wherever you want to call it. It's they're all corrupt, and they will not let go of that Cantillon effect until it is taken out of their hands. So it's just in real time we're seeing this happen.
Absolutely, dude. The corruption, and again, this all happens because the state is in charge of money and it's acting on its own incentives. It's trying to protect its moat. Anyways, Opti, let's get to the news. Let's do it.
The Daily News.
Brought to you by Bitbox 2 Bitcoin Only Edition, a hardware wallet by Shift Crypto. Crypto-like cryptography. It's secure, it's open source, and it's so easy your mom can set it up. Self-custody is the revolution, and the Bitbox makes it simple. Do not leave your Bitcoin on an exchange. Order a Bitbox today.
All right, guys, we're okay. This is a sticky topic, but it's an important conversation to have. This week we saw very famous broadcaster Alex Jones. He was a jury basically said that he had to pay $900 million, almost $1 billion. Why are they doing that? Same reason that Craig Wright went after Bitcoiners and sued Bitcoiners using the British court to silence speech. Now, whether you agree with Alex Jones politically or not is irrelevant to this conversation. The matter of fact is that they're using lawfare, very similar to what Craig Wright did, to silence dissenting speech. And why do we cover this? We always say that freedom of speech is the fight for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a form of speech. Transacting in Bitcoin is a form of speech. What makes you think that if you're not allowed to say certain things, even this YouTube video is a great example of this. I had to change the title because they're shadow banning this stuff. Do we want to live in a world where an elite few get to pick and choose what speech is entitled or not? And Gigi has an amazing tweet. I'm actually going to pull it up and I'm going to use it as a preface to what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to read it for you guys. Hate speech. Who defines hate? Misinformation. Who has the authority on truth? And there's a reason that the founding fathers, specifically in the United States, made the First Amendment the way it is. Because it's an oracle problem. There's a fundamental problem with a few getting to decide what speech is okay and what speech is not okay. That few is going to abuse the system and make sure that they silence dissenting speech that threatens their power. What we advocate for is let the free market of ideas get to decide what idea is good and what idea is bad. There is no perfect solution to this. There's trade-offs. Preferably, obviously we're a little biased because we're a Bitcoin show. I would much rather live in a world where the free market gets to decide, individuals making their own decisions, not relying on a government bureaucracy, getting to decide what speech is okay and what speech is not okay. And the thing is, if you've been paying attention over the last 2 years, the decentralized hive mind of the internet has taken the so-called experts to absolute school. And the so-called experts have been making terrible decisions. Remember what they told us, guys? There was going to be no inflation. If you listened to them, you would have gotten absolutely wrecked. And a bunch of deplorables on the internet, also known as Bitcoiners, got that right. But we were labeled as misinformation. So the world that I advocate and what I recommend to you guys is this going to be a perfect world? No, I don't think perfect worlds exist. I don't think utopias exist. But I think the world would be a better place if the individual made his own decision over his life rather than outsourcing that personal responsibility to somebody else. And I think this is what it all comes down to at the end of the day. So, all that being said, that preface being said, let's get to the news. So what happened, right? So this is John told. He said Alex Jones was just ordered to pay $45 million more, $965 million for reckless conspiracy theory nonsense, than JP Morgan for rigged precious metal markets for the better part of a decade. That's right. What about when they told us, and the New York Times said that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and that led to the invasion of Iraq, which killed tens of thousands of people, real people. What about that? Were they fined? No, because that wasn't going against the establishment narrative. Now, do I agree with Alex Jones politically or what he stood for? No. Some things, but not all of them. But that's besides the point. The point here is they're clearly using lawfare to go after dissenting speech, which is how Hodl has found himself where he is today. Craig Wright used lawfare, used the libel laws in the UK to go after him for dissenting speech. And that scares people and that forces people to self-censor out of fear of a lawsuit. So, moving on. Let me move on to this one. This is Candace Owens, predominant conservative commentator. And she said, earlier today, I learned that Kanye West was officially kicked out of JP Morgan Chase. I was told there was no official reason given, but they sent this letter as well to confirm that he has until late November to find another place for the Yeezy empire to bank. So, again, I don't agree with the things that Kanye was saying. In fact, they're anti-Semitic as hell. They're racist as hell too. But goes back to what I was saying. Bitcoin is the money of enemies. The way it functions is like the money of enemies. You have to be okay with your worst enemy using Bitcoin. It's an open monetary network. The other side, again, you have a group, a bureaucratic elite that are deciding who's entitled to use money or not. Now, the same system that kicked out Kanye has also been abused to go after, in the case of Canada, right? Those peaceful protesters, they were in bouncy houses. And they used that system to go after dissenting speech. So it has been abused in the past. But I think this week was a very historical moment. It was a very historical moment in this kind of fourth turning that we're going through. Because these are extremely predominant people. These are very well-known people. These are people that are fucking super famous. And there you have the system showing itself in broad daylight, and it's going after speech that goes against the official narrative. And I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in a world where I'm going to get the information that I get, and I'm going to make my own decision about what's going on. Now, how does this all connect to Bitcoin? Same reason that the Russia and Iran sanctions forced those countries to look for alternatives. It's just a matter of time before enough banks close their doors and the only option left is Bitcoin. What do you think happens when someone like Alex Jones, someone like Kanye have no alternative but to use the orange coin? What do you think the establishment is going to say about the orange coin? What do you think they're going to do? What do you think the vocabulary they're going to use to go after it? I just think it's a matter of time before this happens. In fact, it's already happening. Look at Russia. Look at Iran. Look at the reaction from the Treasury. I got an email from Law 360 a couple days ago. The U.S. Treasury is already going after other mixers. Like I predicted a month ago, the stakers or the validator, the node validators for Ethereum, 60% are already only accepting OFAC compliant blocks. So what the question that I have for you, the individual, is what world do you want to live in? There's pros and there's cons to both worlds. But I'll tell you this, I think there's a whole lot more pros in a world that functions on an open monetary network versus a world that's centrally planned, where a group of bureaucrats are deciding who is entitled to use money and who's not entitled to use money. And those bureaucrats are turning up the heat like freaking crazy. It's not just you and me anymore. Now it's anybody who talks against dissenting speech. So those are my thoughts on that. I hope that you guys could think clearly and not get distracted by the propaganda and actually pay attention to the words that I'm saying. This is not about what Kanye said. This is not about what Alex Jones said. I don't care what they said. I'm paying attention to the fact that there's people that are hell-bent on silencing dissent. And if they silence dissent, if they don't want people saying certain things, what makes you think they'll be okay with Bitcoiners transacting with whoever they want? So this is crazy shit. And I believe that this is just the frickin' beginning. If I told you what happened today or what happened this week, if I told you about it 5 years ago, you would label me a conspiracy theorist. In fact, I would label myself a conspiracy theorist if I heard it. And you'd think I'm crazy. But here we are. Opti, what are your thoughts, bro? Let's go to Paul, the lawyer, first, and then we'll get the in-house truth teller.
Yeah, man, I'll keep it tight. Reminds me of that quote, I may not agree with what you had to say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. I think that's every freedom-loving person should take that perspective. As far as freedom of speech, like the founders never thought that all speech was good. All speech isn't good. We know that. Yelling fire in a crowded theater is not a good use of speech. But their principle was that there is no person who is able to objectively judge what is good speech and what is bad speech without incorporating bias or political motives, what have you. So they put freedom of speech first and made you responsible for the outcomes of your speech. Like if you yell fire in a crowded theater, you're responsible for the people that are hurt. In this case, let's assume what the court concluded was correct and that Alex Jones defamed these people and caused them injury. They would be entitled to compensation. Those are called actual damages in a court of law. What brought this up to almost $1 billion was punitive damages, which are designed to punish a person for bad behavior. So in essence, what they did here is they said, we don't like the content of your speech so much, we're going to financially punish you because we can't throw you in jail for it. The outcome is the same either way. Alex Jones' speech, whatever you think about it, who cares, is chilled, it's silenced. And that is a net detriment for all of free society. And on the second thing, the JP Morgan thing, honestly, I think any private business should be able to cancel their business with any person for whatever reason. Banks have been doing this for years. Redlining back in the early part of the 21st century, they kept blacks from getting loans or purchasing houses. They've been doing this for a long time. And that's why I'm so excited about Bitcoin, because it makes them irrelevant. Because we don't need you, a private business, to say you can use your money here or you can't. We take the power into our own hands, financial sovereignty. So yeah, JP Morgan, ban whoever the fuck you want. I'm going to go use Bitcoin. And I think everyone else too, especially marginalized people and especially people who mainstream culture wants to cancel.
Marginalized people need it the most, man. I think they're the ones that have the most to benefit from Bitcoin. And again, the establishment at B, what do you think they're going to do? What do you think they're going to say when marginalized people have achieved or have gotten this power, this power that Bitcoin gives the individual? How do you think they're going to react to it? It's not called the money of enemies for no reason, right? The good news about all this, though, and I'm going to take this from Kaiser, is that it's meant to be attacked. It welcomes attack. In fact, every time it gets attacked, it gets stronger. So bring it on. It's going to be crazy. And we'll try to do our best to cover this. But yeah, guys, Opti, in-house truth teller. What's your angle on this, my bro?
Well, to me, this is very obviously a freedom of speech issue. We are freedom of speech maxis here, and I thought we lived in a free society, but apparently we don't. If you say the wrong words and you have the wrong think, it's Orwellian, it's Orwellian dystopia. They will just cut you out of society. And if we can't converse freely, we can't ever get to the truth. And this is why we're so open about debate and arguing the points on their own merits. Like, I don't need the nanny state to tell me as an adult what are bad words or to protect me from bad words for my safety. I am a rational human being, and I think there are other rational human beings out there. And to your guys' point, like, if you can separate yourself from what is being said and you look at what is being done, this is a warning call or a premonition of what will come back or come down on the future of this. And it's like Paul said, the saying, I may not like what you say, but I will fight for your right to say it. And furthermore, to the end of your rant, this isn't about Ye or Alex Jones. This is about clamping down on the average individual and scaring them into compliance. So this is what it's really about. And furthermore, if we add that with the PayPal news that we heard last week about fining you if you don't, if you step off the mainstream perspective, again, this just shows where the powers that be want to take our world and our society. And again, force you into compliance and be afraid of speaking the truth and shying away from these hard topics, which I think as humans we need to actually openly discuss. And this is why we are free speech maxis. Like, again, I don't need the nanny state to protect me from bad words. Like, I, as a human being, understand what is wrong and what is right. And furthermore, this is a Bitcoin show, and Bitcoin is for enemies, and Bitcoin is free speech money. So, Bitcoin is the most equitable, inclusive money there is. And even if you don't like the person, they can and should be able to transact, in my opinion. Like, humans are humans, and who am I, or a small cabal of people, to tell us that you don't deserve to feed yourself and your family. And furthermore, like, this is why we Bitcoin takes the power out of the hands of a small cabal, out of the banks, as Paul said. So this is very, very scary stuff going on as an average individual. If these people, like these men who are, they're big names, they're big faces, if they can't transact or speak freely in a world, like, what makes us think that we can too, or as well? It's like, this is terrifying for the average individual, because again, it's not about them, it's more about scaring us, the average person, into compliance. And this is how I'm viewing it. It's like, man, I'd like to speak freely, but I also realize, like Paul was saying, not all speech is good. But if we can't at least push against these boundaries and see where those lines are, how as humans as a whole know what is truth? Because, the arbiters of truth can tell us what's up from down, but we will never know. Anyways, end of rant. I think Paul wants to jump in with one more topic. So
Hit it, Paul.
Yeah, I got one more thing to say on this, and I probably should have mentioned earlier, but this is really important. We're talking about money and speech as if they're two separate things. They're really not. I mean, this was even decided in the Citizens United case, where the Supreme Court said that money is free speech. Who you donate your money to, how you use your money, is free speech. The courts have also decided that code is free speech. And I think we all believe that. I think we all know that. Bitcoin is both code and money. Bitcoin is not separate from free speech or adjacent to it. How you use your money, how you transact with your money, is an aspect of your ability to express yourself and part of your right to free speech.
Boom. Hell yeah. I agree. And I love that we have I love that we have a lawyer now at Simply Bitcoin. So he's gonna give those.
I'm gonna lawyer out on all of you. Sorry, guys.
Hell yeah. Good. I like it. So one last thing, guys. Let's talk about the two worlds, and then we'll move on to the culture. Both have trade-offs. There is no perfect solution to this. World number one is the world that we live in. Now, Joe Rogan had the Rolling Stones founder or creator on a show, and the guy was making the case, like, we need the government to regulate the internet. We need the government to. Here's the thing, guys. Right, and that's the solution, right? It's like, oh, you could just police speech. Hate speech is, it's we take it away. Like racism, it's like, dude, we all hate that stuff. But here's the crux of the issue, is that the government will abuse that to protect themselves. And not only that, the government will use that to silence dissenting speech. The Iraq War is a great example. Afghanistan is a great example. Vietnam is a great example. There's so many examples of the US government flat out lying and then calling out the people who are dissenting as misinformation, as traitors. The guy that basically made World War II go faster or end faster. He cracked the Enigma, which was like the Germans' secret encrypting messaging device, and he encrypted it. He decrypted it using this really rudimentary computer that he built. Right. The UK government persecuted him, sterilized him because he had a certain sexuality. It wasn't until 30, 40 years later that the UK government apologized for that. So why am I bringing up these examples? Because the only solution to dictating or getting to decide, and they actually made a movie about this, by the way, with Eric Cumberbatch or whatever, that actor. Anyways, I went sidetrack. The only solution to policing free speech or policing disinformation is the government doing it. Alan Turing. Thank you, Rave Elevator.
Mm-hmm.
And look at his story. It's tragic. And the guy was a hero. The only solution to policing disinformation or cutting down the hate speech or giving the authority to a group of people to do that is bigger government. The problem is that history has shown that bigger government has used that power to protect themselves and to go after dissenting speech. So there isn't a perfect solution. The founding fathers knew this, which is why they make the First Amendment the way they did. So what is the other alternative? The other alternative is it falls back to the individual to get to decide what idea is good and what idea is bad. There's a tremendous amount of personal responsibility that is required for that as well. If more individuals take personal responsibility and they stop outsourcing that to either a news agency or the government, the world would be a much better place because it's a decentralized system. It's individuals coming to their own conclusions, right? I like that world. I think that's the world that we're going into, and I think that's the world that the internet just incentivizes in the first place. But we're in this weird transition where a big portion of the population still living in the old world. And I think that this is where the clash happens. Anyways, I'm really excited about the future, but holy crap, there's going to be ups and downs. I want freedom. I'm a freedom maxi. I think freedom solves this. It brings the best out of humanity. And I think the other system is dependent on coercion and it's dependent on human slavery. And I'm sick of it. Whether it's their money, whether it's the fact that they want to gatekeep information as well. I'm sick of it. It doesn't have good results. It's failed. It's time to move on. It's time to try something new. And the internet is going to facilitate that. And on top of the internet comes the thing that we talk about every day, Bitcoin. Anyways, rant over. Let's get to the culture.
The Daily Culture.
Brought to you by SwanBitcoin.com. Swan is the best way to build your Bitcoin stack with automated Bitcoin savings plans and instant purchases, serving clients of any size from $10 to $10 million. We love Swan because they incentivize self-custody and dollar cost averaging. What are you waiting for? Visit SwanBitcoin.com today. All right, I also want to give a shout out to Pacific Bitcoin. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference on the West Coast. It is stretching out the S. November 10th through the 11th in Los Angeles, California. Pacific Bitcoin speaker list includes Michael Saylor, Alex Epstein, Lynn Alden, Corey Clipston, Jeff Booth, Dylan LeClaire, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Parker Lewis, so many more. Nico and Opti are going to be doing a live Simply Bitcoin from Pacific Bitcoin. You're not going to want to miss it. And you could take advantage of the promo code, all caps, Simply, to get a major discount for your Pacific Bitcoin tickets. Opti, take it away, brother.
What's up, guys? Okay, so today's culture. I have a few things backed up for the culture, but I saw this drop today and it is Friday. So of course they're going to try to weasel in a really bad economics article on Forbes and paint Bitcoin as a tool that people don't need. But as we just so eloquently elaborated on the news section, the world needs Bitcoin now more than ever. So let's just get into this article. This is by Forbes.com and it's titled, "Do We Need Bitcoin for What It's Become?" So this is by a guy named Dan Runkavicius. And he goes, "Has Bitcoin found its identity as an asset class? Last month, Bitcoin briefly decorrelated from tech stocks until this week. What's going on here? Your guess is as good as mine." This is his words, not mine. "Because unlike other asset classes, Bitcoin doesn't have much of a valuation benchmark. After all, we can't value it as a currency or a medium of exchange, and there's very little, if anything, we can buy with it without the involvement of a fiat currency. And despite its long correlation with tech equities, we can't value it as a stock either. It doesn't generate earnings, nor does it pay a dividend. So what is it then, and how can we price tag it?" And on this last paragraph, you can see exactly where his bias is, but I'll cover that later on in the article. So He starts off the article with calling Bitcoin a decentralized fairy tale. A decentralized currency is a lovely democratic idea. Bitcoin isn't democratic, but maybe Nico can elaborate on that later. And you can discuss its merits against fiat currencies day and night, but the hard truth is no government, however democratic, will give away its control over legal tender. Apparently, Dan has never heard of El Salvador, but that's neither here nor there. So you don't have to look too far back to see what the governments are capable of. Take gold. It's the world's oldest currency that is still used today after fiat currencies replaced it.
Hold on. Opti, you're being challenged, okay, in the live chat. People want to hear you say something in Spanish.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Roll your R.
No, I can confirm.
All right, let's
No.
go.
I can confirm Opti is Mexican. Okay, it's 100% confirmed.
All right, okay, let's go. Take gold. It's the world's oldest currency that is still used to date, even after fiat currencies replaced it. It's one of the vital reserve assets of central banks and by far the most popular asset class. And yet, anytime gold threatened to strip the government of its power to control money, lawmakers quickly stepped in, and it references Executive Order 6102. And then he goes on to say, banning Bitcoin at this point would be a political walk in the park compared to the great confiscation and other measures governments have taken in the past. So we have to get realistic here. Unless there's some kind of political cataclysm that sheds the world order as we know it to pieces, Bitcoin's chances as a currency are very slim. If it grows too big to compete with paper money, lawmakers will eat it alive. Apparently, Dan has never heard about the China ban because Bitcoin don't care, Honey Badger don't care. But the fact that Bitcoin can't become a currency doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin is worthless. So we agree on some points, Dan. Okay. From an investment and ideological standpoint, Bitcoin is more like a commodity than a currency. More precisely, gold, one of the most expensive and useless commodities in the world. Unlike other commodities like oil, gold has, and you can see his bias. I personally love the fact that Bitcoin is quote unquote useless. I want my money to be purely money, but we will get into that later. Nor is gold legal tender. You can't walk into a Pizza Hut, drop a sliver of gold on the counter and expect to get a slice of pizza in return. That's because gold has just one job: sit tight in a vault and hold its value. Gold has outlived every modern currency ever created, and for thousands of years, it has successfully fought off inflation and even gone up in value. In other words, gold is an insurance against everything that can go wrong with paper money, inflation, devaluation, and whatnot. Gold is a hedge against bad government decisions. Yes, this is why we are so adamant about the sound money gospel and furthermore, holding hard money. We do not want governments to debase our currency. We want to make it hard for them to make more units of our currency. This is a feature, not a bug. But in form, Bitcoin is probably the furthest thing from gold you can think of. Digital versus physical, but as asset classes, the two are very much alike. Like gold, Bitcoin has little utility. Its supply is limited, not by nature, but by design, and its value purely depends on supply and demand rather than centralized monetary policy. Here, I want to interject because personally, I find a lot of utility in Bitcoin. The 21 million hard cap cannot be debased. You can't make more units. It is censorship resistant money. And furthermore, even if you take that all away, you can send Bitcoin across the internet in 10 minutes final settlement. I don't know any other currency that can do that without an intermediary and a third-party counter risk. But anyways, I will get into that more. Can Bitcoins beat gold's track record? For a store of value, gold has a hell of a credential. It's held its value against inflation for over 5,000 years. The catch is you have to hold gold directly. This is where Bitcoin comes in. Technically, it has all to replace gold as a more convenient store of value. So he does see the value of Bitcoin, but I digress. Its weak spot is that it's on a roller coaster, and for a store of value, 13 years and one recession are just baby steps compared to gold's track record. Again, we tell you guys all the time, zoom out. Bitcoin number goes up is literally just a sign of adoption. There is no bear markets in Bitcoin. But anyways, is Bitcoin maturing into a store of value? And he concedes to our point that Bitcoin has come a long way and deserves credit no matter where you stand in the crypto debate. And he even furthermore says, a little falling under that, the hodlers are up, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, of course, we have to be careful about jumping to conclusions from such moves. For one, adopting crypto has become sort of a marketing PR gimmick, which I agree with him. Adopting crypto is a marketing gimmick, but once you adopt Bitcoin, there's only number go up in regards to Bitcoin. It is an adoption cycle, and once you adopt it, there is no going back. But as he says, just because Wall Street lets its clients trade Bitcoin doesn't necessarily mean it has much conviction in it. And to this point, I definitely agree, because if you're familiar with Bitcoin and the market of Bitcoin and the price action of Bitcoin, you understand that most Bitcoin is in cold storage and the price fluctuation is of traders on the margin. It's just a small amount of traders that are moving the price, but most people that understand Bitcoin are holding their Bitcoin. As I told you, the price of Bitcoin is just a sign of market adoption. As I like to say, the price of Bitcoin is a real-time metric of people's understanding of Bitcoin. And I'll get into that a little later as well. But as he says, what does Bitcoin's price action says? And he says another way to proxy the market's collective opinion of Bitcoin is to look at its correlations, which I just debunked when I told you that the price of market's fluctuation is based on the edge of the traders moving the market. So there will be some correlations because most people that are trading the markets are also trading other markets, and the capital moves our little market because Bitcoin is a baby. Anyways, all of a sudden, Bitcoin becomes a mainstream technology play and began moving in tandem with the NASDAQ. Very few asset classes and vectors have such a strong correlation, which means one thing. The market didn't buy Bitcoin for its original promise. It wasn't a hedge against fiat devaluation or the end of traditional finance. Instead, it was a highly speculative risk on investment. But like I just said, the price of Bitcoin moves on the margin of the traders. And he even concedes to the idea that the number of hodlers in the top 5 categories up to 0.1 BTC has grown under bearish market conditions since April 2022. And the degree of hodling behavior is historically high. So he understands what we understand. Most Bitcoin doesn't move. Most hodlers hold their Bitcoin long term. And the price fluctuation is people on the margins moving and trading Bitcoin because they don't understand what Bitcoin is. But like I say, Bitcoin has one way of adoption and its number goes up and to the right. So of course, Bitcoin's decorrelation with stocks lasted for just a month until this last week. So it's way too early to jump to conclusions. But out of curiosity, what would happen if Bitcoin proved itself as a mainstream store of value? And we talk about this all the time. If Bitcoin captured just half of the store of value market, it would alone quadruple its market cap. And that would set Bitcoin to a near 7-figure mark. And here's the end of the article. Do we need Bitcoin as a store of value? If Bitcoin doesn't get much more than a store of value that it doesn't have much utility as a medium of exchange or any other application apart from storing value, it in effect invalidates its own digital superiority to gold. In that case, does gold really need a replacement? And he said no. But as we understand, Bitcoin is the best money. It's perfect money. It's way better than gold. I don't know if you can send gold across the internet in 10 minutes or less for final settlement. That's sarcasm. Of course you can't. Anyways, I told you I was going to reference Nakamoto Institute. It's one of my favorite websites, and you guys should all go devour everything on this website. But there's a perfect article. I put it in the description for you guys, and it's Bitcoin as a store of value, unit of account, and medium of exchange. So let's just jump into some of this stuff. And he goes, there's a common fallacy which says that price stability is required in order for currency to function as a form of money. However, in an unstable world, a stable currency is counterproductive. Stability is about as real as the fountain of youth, love potions, or perpetual motion machines. It is not to be found anywhere in the universe, but for some reason people act that somehow exists. Prices reflect the availability of things that we actually can have. Otherwise, prices could not serve enabling people to coordinate the allocation of scarce resources. Right now, the world is deciding whether it wants Bitcoin to be money. Fundamentally, we don't know, but Bitcoin's exponential growth is a strong signal, and if Bitcoin were stable, there will be no such signal. So, what actually makes a good store of value? It's an expectation about how much people think. The only way that a good can store value is if everyone wants it so badly that it would be snapped up even in a tiny discount. And this paragraph, I might have to read the whole thing because I think it's got so much sauce. And it goes, stability occurs once everyone has not only learned of the favorable properties of the good, but has learned that everyone else also knows of those properties. This is where we are right now. If I know that Bitcoin is both scarce and unforgeable, I may still be scared to put my money in it because I may fear that other people won't treat it like a store of value. Furthermore, everyone could think this way at the same time in the market, therefore still behave fearfully. This is why people must be convinced that everyone else believes in Bitcoin too. People today are both coming to terms with Bitcoin's properties and are confused about how the rest of the market believes in them. And This is where we tell you guys all the time. The Bitcoin price, or as I just told you a minute ago, the Bitcoin price, in my opinion, is a real-time metric of people's understanding of Bitcoin. And there is no bear markets in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a protocol. It is getting adopted in real time. It just has an asset on top of it where its price fluctuates. But the number goes up and to the right because people are adopting Bitcoin all around the world. It's just not everyone knows exactly what they're holding. But you guys, the hodlers out there, the Bitcoiners out there, the principled Bitcoiners out there know exactly what I know to be true. Bitcoin is the best store of value that the world has ever seen. You cannot debase it. It is algorithmically hard capped at 21 million, and you don't need a third-party intermediary. To me, that has a lot of utility and value. But anyway, what about Bitcoin as a unit of account? When people say unit of, seem to want something that will reliably measure wealth somehow. They are just other ways of chasing the siren song of stability. There is one worthwhile definition of unit account. It's very simple. A unit of account is something such that a gain to it is considered to be a profit and a loss is considered to be a loss. Thus, thinking of profits and losses in terms gaining or losing a liquid good is essential to being able to divide the entire future into manual tasks. And this is what we tell you about the price. As the price goes up, it shows that Bitcoin is more liquid. It shows signals to the market that more people are adopting Bitcoin. And with that comes the idea of a medium exchange. The only way you get to a medium of exchange is if people store value in it. So as more people store value in Bitcoin, the price goes up. As more people stop selling Bitcoin, the price will continue to go up, and adoption is a feedback loop. So people fundamentally need to save in Bitcoin first before they will use it as a medium of account or medium of exchange, sorry. And there is some more to this, but I feel like I've read too much anyways. But the last point is, when people say Bitcoin isn't a good store of value or unit of account, what they really mean is Bitcoin isn't being adopted yet, or rather Bitcoin isn't being adopted quickly enough, which is not a valid complaint. Bitcoin has the right properties for the world's money, and the more the world comes to terms with this, the more stable it will become. And just to add some sauce on here from Twitter, I really love this tweet by Safety and Amos, and he says, remember what the Forbes article said. Can Bitcoin beat gold's track record? And Safety dunks on all that FUD, because this isn't a new narrative. This isn't a new FUD line on Bitcoin. The biggest problem with Bitcoin is that it didn't exist before 2009. The biggest problem with Bitcoin is that it's only 13 years old, and only time will tell that it is better than gold. Only a free market tool like Bitcoin, where people can willingly based on their own thoughts and their own thinking, adopt Bitcoin without coercion, will we know whether it is the best money. But as UTXO says right now, Bitcoin has the best properties of any money we've ever discovered, and gold is money because of its properties, not because it's backed. It is the supreme money, and this is why the world is adopting Bitcoin at breakneck speed. There is only an adoption cycle of Bitcoin, and it's up and to the right. You got to start with the store of value first, and then all these other things happen afterwards. But Bitcoin is becoming money in real time. So it's store of value, a unit of account, and a medium exchange all happening at once. And the market price, the signals of the market, are just a reflection of people's understanding of Bitcoin. And the world is waking up to the fact that they need Bitcoin more than ever. Anyways, I think I ranted too long. Nico, Paul, jump in.
Man, I absolutely love these Opti rants. It's the Friday episode, guys. So we're taking just for our own mental sanity, or else Opti and I will spontaneously combust. We're gonna take this Saturday off. So this is gonna be the weekend episode. I know a lot of you guys love. So no, man, I think you absolutely killed it. So much sauce. I love that website. Was it Nakamoto Institute, right, Opti? Yeah. Yes. So, dude, I think you covered it so well. I really don't want to pollute that with my stuff, but I will. You said in the very beginning, you said something about Bitcoin not being democratic, and I'll add to that. Potentially give you guys a little bit of value. Look, the reality is, and this is why the change the code campaign and all that thing is just so stupid, and they're just beating their heads against the wall. It's not really doing anything. The consensus mechanism that fiat currency, the shit coins have this, where it's like, the majority votes, and then all of a sudden, that changes everything. If you don't go along with it, you're screwed, right? Bitcoin doesn't function that way. It's up to the individual user to get to decide what software he wants to run, what Bitcoin software he wants to run, and what Bitcoin software he doesn't want to run. When Satoshi, like one of the early writings of Satoshi mentioned, he's like, I hope that there's different versions of Bitcoin. Now it's mostly around core, right? There is other versions, but the vast majority of nodes are running core, right? And the beauty of that, right, is that the majority can't force the minority to run something. Doesn't work like that, right? And that protects the individual tremendously. It gives him power that he once did not have, right? And again, I believe, and I'm a big fan of freedom. I think that this is a benefit to the world, but you know, that's my opinion. That's what I want to add to that. Paul, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on Bitcoin democracy? And if you want to add anything to Opti, but I think Opti fucking slayed it.
I mean, I'll start with the article. That was actually kind of impressive. It was a very impressive collection of all the old FUD points that we've been hearing for years. I rarely see them in one place. My second thought on that article is, man, tell me you don't understand Bitcoin money or economics without telling me. Like, he had a lot of the basic information, but missed a lot of the connections and leaning into those FUD points. So I'm both impressed and disgusted by that article. From the democracy standpoint, Bitcoin's not a democracy. Bitcoin is market driven. There are multiple versions of Bitcoin. There's, Bitcoin Cash, other hard forks, and the one that we are on now, Bitcoin, won because of its superior monetary policy and market adoption.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've forked, we've tried it. They thought they were going to be better versions. They're not. Follow the market, follow the monetary policy, stick with Bitcoin, and you're going to win long term.
Amen to that. I think that was beautiful. Opti, you freaking slayed it, man. You've been on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
Oh man. All right. Let's check out the meme review, everybody.
The Daily Meme Review.
Brought to you by CipherSafe. Don't be that person that loses their Bitcoin seed due to fire damage, water damage, dog attacks. Back up your generational Bitcoin wealth on steel, and there's no better place to do it than the Cypher Grid by CipherSafe. And now check out their new Bitcoin art, the Bitcoin Rulux triangle, only on cyphersafe.io.
Well, you already know this is the meme review, and tweets are the bullets, but memes are the artillery in this information war, guys. Continue to meme, continue to get calls of actions, continue to make the illustrations and the funnies and the humors that will get people into the Bitcoin net. Anyways, this first one, this is an old meme. This is by Tor Demeester, but I really liked it considering that I'm almost positive when things start pumping again, people are going to fall for the trap of altcoins, or AKA shitcoins. And he goes, back in 2013, I argued that altcoins served as a pressure valve for dealing with liquidity flowing into Bitcoin. Will history repeat itself? And as you can see on the left, we got the dollar money's going into the Bitcoin valve, and we got altcoins releasing the valve in the pressure. And some of this money will get wrecked out and come back into a bucket, going back into the fiat world. And some of the money will go into Bitcoin mining. And the reason I added this one, because I think this is a great illustration of what goes on in the Bitcoin market. As everyone knows, shitcoins are just a leverage play on Bitcoin. Shitcoins are designed to take your Bitcoin, and some people are going to get wrecked, and that's just part of the game. Shitcoiners will do shitcoin things, and hey, Bitcoin is the one that moves the market, and Bitcoin is the valve from the fiat system. Anyways, this next one is by my boy Selly, Don_T-Cell. And since I covered that about shitcoins, I really like this one about someone on an island, and he sees a boat. We say it all the time, Bitcoin is the escape boat, Bitcoin is the escape valve, or as people say, Bitcoin is like Noah's Ark. It will save you from the flood. And we got a boat here, and it's got the Ethereum logo, and we got castaway person on an island. He goes, yeah, no thanks. He will even avoid the escape boat that is Ethereum. This next one is by a friend, Bitcoin Meme Hub. And again, I wanted to put this one in because it kind of adds into what we covered in the news. And he quotes, "This is a dangerous to our democracy," said no one from mainstream media. All they want you to focus on is pronouns war and other shit. Bitcoin is a solution, and it's a screenshot from Bitcoin magazine of global inflation rates. And we got America 8.2%, Brazil 7.2%, Germany 10. I think that's Russia 13.7. We got Argentina at 78.5%. We got Turkey at 83.5%. And Nico's home country of Venezuela, 114%.
That's right.
This is the real danger. This is the real danger. Is you are losing your wealth. Anyways, this next one, since we covered the Kanye and the Alex Jones, I thought it was pretty fitting. Shouts out to Toxicat. I told him to put these on Twitter so that I can put them on the show. And it goes, Chase, do Tarong think we're closing Ye's bank account? And Ye in his suit with the Bitcoin medallion.
Oh, man.
And then, again, another Kanye post. He was on Joe Rogan 2020. I know he's a Bitcoiner, but I don't know if he's an adamant Bitcoiner like us, but he does have this quote on that podcast with Joe Rogan. He goes, the Bitcoin guys really have a perspective on what the true liberation of America and humanity will be. And this is why we do what we do every single day, because we are freedom maximalists. Like, we believe in freedom of speech. We believe in freedom of association. We believe in freedom of the individual. We are trying our best to spread the signal to fight the collectivists every single day. And Bitcoin is that tool that eliminates fiat slavery, that gets you to opt out of the system. Continue to take self-custody. That is the way. And this next one is by my boy Any Rug, and he says the real number go up is at Simply Bitcoin. Yesterday was our 600 episode, and I'm not going to take credit for this one. This is more an applause to Nico and even our boy Phil, who left the show, but we will not let Simply Bitcoin die. Shouts out to episode 600. Shouts out to 600 more episodes, because the signal cannot be stopped. And, just shouts out to you, Nico. I'm glad that I can join the team and we can continue to push the sound money gospel, because that's all that really matters, is people understanding that we have the tools to free ourselves from all this madness. Anyways,
Speaking of team, right? If you're going to give a shout out like that, I want to give a shout out to all the other Simply Bitcoin members: Paul, Zach, Wine, Rustin with the wake up call, the legendary wake up call. Shout out to all you guys. There's a lot of heavy lifting work. Also Megan and Issa, and
yes, the Simply Bitcoin team strong.
Yes, and then our friend also in Pakistan as well. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Lots of love to all you guys.
Hold on. I got one for you, Nico.
I am building.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Today my score is my Sunpack bag that holds my lighting when I go traveling. So Nico saw me carrying my assassin's bags as we are traveling to these conferences. So
boom,
that's my score today.
All right, I'm gonna give a very special show. Very special. It's a Coca-Cola bottle cap. Ooh, it's it's the good Coca-Colas. If you know, you know. This cap only comes on the glass bottles. Paul, what do you give those memes?
Well, first off, I want to say don't stop mining until you get to 21 million episodes. That's the goal.
Let's go.
In my mind.
Right,
so
then we retire.
Cheers, guys. And I know you say not to get political, but I'm going to get a little political. I give those memes a spherical Earth.
Ooh, wow. I see you, Paul.
Don't at me, guys. Seriously.
Birds are not real.
All right, guys.
But neither is flat Earth.
We already got some scores, but drop your scores in the chat and we'll read them for you guys. We got this first one. Nico, you want to read them out?
Yes, this is Narwhal Tacos. I give those memes literally 15 minutes of my fiat job, which I was supposed to be at 15 minutes ago.
That's all right. I told my work I was at a doctor's appointment. So.
Okay. Memes deserve a surfboard because I'm about to go surf. Later, fam.
Beautiful.
Bitcoin Becca.
Oh, wait, hold on. It's not a meme review score, but I wanted to do this.
I am simping.
Oh, we got one. All right. I got you.
Jason Moore. I give those memes some horns. Opti. That was not us, for the record. Opti's neglected 4-month-old. I love him. Whoever you are, I like you. Score an appointment at the foot doctor for Optimus West. They take sats. Dude, I like him
Optimus West.
Oh, man. Okay, La Frenchie. I give those memes my 7 hours of work today. Oh, putting that proof of work in. Bitcoin Becca. I give those memes my leftover special brownie from last night, bro. Brownies laid me out, dude. So
I don't believe she has any leftover. I don't buy that.
Oh man.
Simon G. Clickbait as usual. They wonder why they don't have any viewers. We do have viewers, bro. We talked about it in the early part of the show, my friend.
You gotta figure out the segments, dude. It's a news segment.
You gotta reverse, dude. Jesus, it's okay. You're keeping us honest. I like it. Anyways, guys, also make sure to join Simply Bitcoin's awesome Telegram group. You can visit it by going to www.t.me/the Simply Bitcoin channel. Also, you can check out Simply Bitcoin Unfiltered. It's the written version of Simply Bitcoin. You got to go to www.simplybitcoin.news. Also want to give a special shout out to our awesome clothing sponsor. We wear their hoodies and shirts every single day. Opti, you got to do the modeling like usual, my friend. Show the back, show the back. That is the Represent Decentralized merch. It's awesome. It's stylish. It's comfy. I'm wearing the just black original Represent. If you see me at the airport ever, I will be wearing this because it's comfy as hell. And they also make Bitcoin merch. It's a Bitcoin company. They accept Bitcoin. It's awesome. So shout out to the Represent guys. We love your clothing. It's super comfy. You can take advantage of the promo code in the video description to get 10% off representltd.com. Opti, why don't you tell everybody where they could find us audio version?
Yes, guys. We are on Anchor. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple. And if you love what we're doing, we are part of the value for value economy on Fountain app, and you can stream us some sats. I will get the Fountain login this weekend, and I'll make sure we have them on Monday for you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Opti. I will see you all on Twitter Spaces and
wait, Nico. We do have the software. Let's do the software release. I want to get this, I want to get this one in.
Got it.
Bitcoin software release.
All right, guys.
Opti, you started it.
This is a software release, but it's also a site by Bitcoiners, and I've been trying to get this one in all week, and I really think this is an important website that I want to show. This is jamapp.org, and it's a website that basically makes Join Market easier to use. So it's a modern interface for Join Market for coin joining out there, guys. Completely decentralized, free as in freedom. And, you can earn sats by putting liquidity up there. As it says right here on the bottom, improve your financial privacy today. Join Market, one of the best coin joining implementations out there, has just become easier to use. And I haven't used it yet, but I'm happy to try this out because I'm the high functional dumb on the show, and I think this is going to make it a lot easier for more people to coin join. Hence why I forced Nico to put this on the show today. But anyways, Nico,
is that a software release or a pleb site?
I think it's a site. It's a site, but maybe it's
Pleb sites.
Okay, now we got it.
Anyways, jamapp.org. Go check it out. I think Gigi's a part of it, so shouts out to you, bro. Shouts out to everyone that is working to make Bitcoin more private and easier to use. So that's why we got to add this stuff.
All right, guys, the show continues till 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, about half an hour on Twitter Spaces with our friends from Swan Bitcoin. Check out the check out the Pacific Bitcoin Conference. Promo code Simply, major discount. I also want to give a very special shout out to our awesome guest, who is a new member of Simply Bitcoin. We will be dropping new type of content very, very soon. I'm really excited for it. It's going to be awesome. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find you, brother?
So I'm Birds Are Not Real 2 on Twitter. You can find me in the tweet on this if you're having trouble on how to spell that. But this new content's going to be really interesting. We've been working really hard on it. I think it's going to be good stuff. I think you guys are going to like it.
I think really so too. I think it's going to be up your guys' alley. We're really excited for it. We will drop it soon. You just keep an eye on it. We'll let you guys know. But anyways, guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of Simply Bitcoin. We're gonna rest over the weekend, but of course we'll be dropping, clips, shorts, all that stuff over the weekend. So you'll always have the signal, especially from our interviews that we did with some awesome guests. Definitely don't want to miss those. We love you all. Appreciate if you hit that like, subscribe, consider sharing the video as well. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Simply Bitcoin. We'll see you all Monday.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay. What's the second best? There is no second best.